All right, so we have the first day in the 12 days of OpenAI. They're announcing OpenAI o1, which is now out of preview in ChatGPT. So we have a ChatGPT o1 model that we'll be testing in just a bit. So let's go through the announcement a bit and what this model entails. They're saying that this is a faster model, so we're going to test for that. It's a more powerful reasoning model. It's better at coding, math, writing. There are a lot of results for that. You can check out your blog post. And o1 now supports image uploads, which I think is huge, and we'll be testing that. It allows you to apply reasoning to visuals for more detailed and useful responses. They say OpenAI o1 is more concise in its thinking, resulting in faster response times than o1 preview. In fact, from their demo, they are mentioning that the thinking time is 50% faster than the previous o1 preview model. So this is a much faster thinking LLM. They have really good results, and they mention that they can reduce major errors on difficult real-world questions by 34%. And Plus and Team users will have access to OpenAI o1 today through the model selector. So I have access to it because I am a Plus member. But if you are a Plus or a Team member, you will have access to that. And Enterprise and Edu users will have access in 1 week. So that's rolling out. So they are adding support as well to ChatGPT o1, like web browsing and file uploads and things like that, which exists there with the other models, but hopefully they bring it for this model as well. And of course, for developers like me, they're still working on making o1 available in the APIs with support for function calling, developer messages, structure outputs, and so on. So this is going to be a good set of functionalities that are going to be important for building agentic workflows, which I think is going to be a huge area of focus and investment in the next coming months leading to next year. And in addition to that, they have this ChatGPT Pro as well, which is a new plan. It's $200 per month, quite expensive if you ask me. And this plan allows you to use the best of models and tools at scale. They have unlimited access to OpenAI o1 and a pro-only version, which from their benchmark results shows that in terms of performance is much better, which I think, for some users, they may want that increase in capability and intelligence. So that's there too. And I think this is more a premium offering, but the o1 model is quite good and we'll be testing it now. So the first thing that we want to test here, which is quite important, and this is one of the main pain points, I think, of using this new series of reasoning models, these o1 models, is that they're quite slow. Their thinking steps usually takes time. And for that reason, it really limits the use cases where you would use o1. What they have done is they have improved the speed on o1. So now it can do things much faster. And also something that users complain about as well is that, let's say you were to ask it something really simple, that the model should give you a really simple and very fast response. So let's say I was to say something like, let's greet it, like let's say hi. And notice that I have the ChatGPT o1 model selected here already. So let's test it. I'm just going to say hi, and it just thought for a second, which is good to see. This is really good in terms of experience, right? You really want the model to know in what situation to think longer and in what situation to just respond. This is really good, and it makes the model quite flexible to use. So that's a huge bonus already. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to test the speed of this model. So we're going to compare ChatGPT o1 and ChatGPT o1 mini. So we're going to test both of them. We don't have access to the o1 preview because this one replaced o1 preview, but we can compare with o1 mini. In their demo, it showed that o1 was quite fast, really fast compared to o1 preview, but we don't have access to o1 preview. So we can test with o1 mini and see how fast it compares. Keep in mind, this is also a very fast model, but I'm very curious how it compares even with o1 mini. So I'm going to test that out now. So I'm going to create a new one here, and then I'm going to test the same prompt on both. And in fact, I'm going to use the prompt that they originally used in today's demo. So I'm just borrowing that prompt, and then I'm going to paste it here. So list the Roman emperors of the 2nd century, including their dates and accomplishments. I'm going to hit enter here and enter here. All right, so there was a difference of a few seconds there, but I will account for that. So you can see this model already produced an answer quite fast, right? So this is the benefit of o1 mini. So it's really hard to know how faster this one is compared to o1 preview because we don't have access to that. But you can see that it did produce an answer quite fast. If you remember, the o1 preview model usually took very long in the thinking steps, and it did this one quite fast. It's still working on it. So you can see here, it's working, and now it has produced the answer. I think it's impressive. From my experience, the O1 preview model, the previous model, was quite slow. And this one took 15 seconds. You can see it right there. And this one took a few seconds. So yeah, I think this is obviously going to be faster because it's a much smaller model. This would have probably taken, maybe 30 to 45 seconds with the other model. According to what they're reporting, it's 50% faster in the thinking steps. So if you look at their original demo, it seems to be the case that it's like that when they compare to O1 preview. So the next test that I want to do here is this test that I usually run with these reasoning LLMs. And I believe that O1 should be able to do this. I mean, this is a much more intelligent model. And with this problem, again, there is a confusion. The language models usually confuse what we're asking for, but basically what we're asking for, which is the candle that was blown out first. I'm not going to read the details. I think some of you are already familiar with this, but the answer should be 3, but most models confuse the question and usually answer with 4. So I'm going to run that. I'm also curious how long it's going to take to do that. For something like this, it probably take a few seconds. Okay, 5 seconds, that's totally fine. But you can see that it solved it really easily, and it says candle 3, which is the right answer. This is amazing. Now I'm going to do another one, which is a math question. These models are really good at math, coding, and science. That's why when you look at the benchmark results, these are the 3 vectors for which OpenAI is putting a lot of investment in and a lot of focus in terms of benchmarking. So this is a math question, and this is a very difficult question for most of the open source reasoning models, such as DeepSeek, R1, and the latest QWQ from the Quant team. So those models really struggle with this. Some of them get it right, but the thinking steps is just too long. I mean, the model goes into a lot of loops and so on. So I'm very curious how this particular model solves this particular problem and what are the different steps. You can see for this one, it's taking a bit of time, it's confirming the calculation and so on. So this is a much harder problem for these models. I'm expecting that it will get it right, but I'm just curious how long it would take. So it took 21 seconds, which is significantly faster compared to those other open source models. Like I would say probably 10 times faster, because those models take minutes to actually solve this particular problem. The thinking steps usually take really long. But again, that comparison is not fair. I think because this model has been optimized to be faster and probably has more resources and so on, this is something that I mentioned, by the way, that they are going to allocate more resources to these O1 models, and I believe the Pro models. So that's why they're offering as unlimited, because there's going to be more resources for these type of models. Anyway, so the answer here is this one, and this is correct. Again, I'm not assessing here the accuracy. The accuracy is correct. And in fact, if we look at the thinking steps, you will see here on the right-hand pane, it's a summary of how it deduced the answer. So this is remarkable already that this model can do it, and it can do it way much faster compared to the other models that exist out there or the alternatives. Another problem that I like to test this with, and so far, the O1 preview and the O1 minimal just cannot solve this one. And it's this crossword puzzle by Ethan Malik. So Ethan Malik writes a lot about AI and capabilities, and I love using his example because I think this problem here is a lot harder for these models, especially because it needs to know a lot more about recent references, and it's a very knowledge-intensive task. So it's a really good task to really test these models on, and I really like to use this example. So let's check it out and see how the model performs. And I'm also very curious at how much time it's going to take for this. So this one really took a long time for the O1 preview model to even give me an answer. So it would take something like 300 seconds or something like that. So I'm curious how fast it's going to try to create an answer for this one. When it probably doesn't know the answer, it probably gets stuck and is trying to verify things and then revisit things. And this is why this particular problem is really interesting, because you will see that for challenging problems, these models, these reasoning models in the thinking steps are going to get stuck. And so I'm very curious how it's going to approach that. Okay, so it looked like it finished. You can see here it took 4 minutes and 1 second. I had to actually pause the recording, but this is the challenge with this particular problem. One thing that I found interesting that I mentioned in today's demo, like the OpenAI team, they mentioned that the model can account for ambiguities. It looks at ambiguities, maybe some knowledge gap, maybe something that wasn't provided as part of the problem. I'm assuming here that could be an issue as well. Like I'm not giving it enough clues, and the model can be able to sort that out. I think that's an incredible capability if these models can do this really well. Maybe they are not at that stage yet, but that's something that reasoning LLMs will be able to do better, like be able to plan, be able to search for information deeply, especially if they have access to tools like web search and so on. Anyways, when they do have access to web search, I think these models will be able to perform better on this particular task. You should be able to look for references online and be able to find more up-to-date information, which is what this problem actually requires. So let's look at the responses here. Now I can tell right away this is not the right solution for this puzzle. So this is not okay. This is not okay as well. This as well is not okay. And we have a few corrects like this one and this one, but most of it is incorrect. I would say it got like 20% of it correct, but the whole response is right here. Again, I did not expect it to get this one correct. I was more interested to see how long it would take to do this particular task. And then if you look at the reasoning steps, obviously it's going to take a lot more steps for this. So it'll be interesting to look at the different steps where it made mistakes and how it can correct itself. One thing you can try here, which is something that Ethan Malik did in his experiment using this similar problem, is that he gave the model a hint. So he gave the model a hint like Wandong is apps, which is it's not a common reference to this particular puzzle. So this one galaxy cluster is apps. That's the answer for this one. And if you give it that, it will be able to solve that. But that's something that I couldn't reproduce with O1 Preview. Maybe this is something that can be done with this particular model since it's a much stronger model at reasoning. So that's something you can try on your own. I'll be curious to see if any one of you get it to actually work with just giving it some feedback like that. Something that I'm excited about here in terms of tooling is they have added access to attaching files. So I can add files to this already. You can see here, we still don't have search, but search is coming. You also have voice mode, which you can use here. Okay, so for this particular example, I want to use the same crossword puzzle, but I'm going to use a different type of input. Something that now is supported here is attachments, and you can also attach an image. So these models can also understand image now. So this is really cool because this is something that's really new, and I wanted to actually test it with this particular problem. So I am putting the same puzzle. You can see the puzzle here. It's these 4 descriptions, and then these 4 descriptions for this crossword puzzle is the same one I just tried, but it's a different input. Maybe this helps the model, right? As I was saying, maybe how I'm providing the information is not ideal for the system, and maybe there is an ideal way on how to prompt the model. So this is something that will be very interesting as developers start to use models like this. What kind of input, what kind of context can you provide it? Especially now that you can provide it images, I think this could be really powerful. So I'm just going to test this same puzzle, and I'm going to prompt it solve the yellow highlighted descriptions in the crossword puzzle. Nothing else. I could provide it more descriptions. I could literally take the description from before and paste it here as well. But I am just curious on the image understanding capabilities of this particular model. I'm not sure what it's using for image understanding, if it's using a different model, if it's using this particular model. I just don't know that. It's hard to tell. There was no mention of that. But you can see that it tried to solve this puzzle in 9 seconds, which is, I don't know what to think about this. Like the other one took 4 minutes. This one took 9 seconds. Why was it faster? I have no clue about that. There's no details here for the thinking steps, but it just tried to solve this problem. And let's look at it. So definitely these are not the right answers. It got a few of them correct. This one is correct. This one is correct. These 2 are wrong. And it actually got this one correct, but the others are incorrect. So again, it couldn't solve the problem. I'm very confused about this. I'm not sure what happened here. It says no details available. Occasionally, the model generates the best response without anything to summarize. So that's very confusing to me. I'm not sure if because I provided the model an image instead of like text, have no clue about that, or because the system is using a completely different model to do the image understanding. I have no clue what's going on here. I'm very interested in maybe hearing from the team what's going on. But anyways, I'm not going to speculate, but I thought that was super interesting to see here. Now let's test one more problem here. And this one is a coding problem. All right, so for this one, I gave it this sort of like very gimmicky architecture of an agentic system that I built. It's a planner agent, writer agent, editor agent. This is something that we actually show how to build in my AI agents course. And so we have internet, we have some articles, we give that to this agentic system, and the system will produce a course plan. Now, I'm going to prompt it to build out maybe code for this. I don't expect it to actually give me working code, but I just want to know how it actually approaches this and if it can understand this image. And there's a lot of pieces missing here for this agentic system. Like there's no information about the tools. There's maybe a hint here, but I want to know how it figures things out. Again, this is something that was mentioned in today's demo from one of the OpenAI researchers, that these models are getting better at reasoning, filling in the gaps, making more sense out of information like this, and then dealing with ambiguities much better. So I'm just going to prompt it, help me implement this agentic workflow using any agent framework you might be familiar with. That's it. It doesn't matter which one. I'm actually not even going to test the code. I just want to see what kind of code it produces. I'm familiar with agentic frameworks like LangGraph, TrueAI, AutoGen, and so on. So let's look at it. Well, it did it in a couple of seconds. Amazing. That's great. And it actually chose LangChain, which I'm not surprised. But anyways, it has the planner agent. It says input a collection of articles and potential access to the internet or a vector database for context. That's great. This is something that's impressive here already because I did not mention anything like that. And generate a high-level course outline or plan from the input articles. This is nice. Output a structured course plan draft, list of modules or lessons. Okay, that's great. I mean, all of these agents are going to output something to provide to the next agent and so on. So this one is a structure plan from the planner agent, right? Flesh out each module, okay? A draft of the full course text. Okay, so this is going to be the draft, and then you have the editor, which is going to polish the final course plan ready for publication. So this is great because when you're building these agents, you will need to describe the role of each agent. You'll need to provide what the model will do, what's the task, right? Provide some background and all of this pieces of information, which I don't provide here. I just provide labels. This could already help us if we're building these agents, gives us ideas on how to maybe prompt the agents or the prompts we're providing to the agents and how we can set up the different agents. All right, technical considerations. Each agent can be implemented as a LangChain agent or simply as a chain of LLM calls with carefully engineered prompts. Okay, that's fine. I'm not surprised by that. If external tools like web searches or vector databases are needed, these can be integrated as tools for the agent. That's okay. All right, so this one, it says the planner agent might use a retrieval chain to gather insights from articles. I agree with that. Maybe that could be useful. The writer agent might not need tools, only the generated plan. I think that's correct. The editor agent might be a refinement step using a straightforward LLM call. That's also very correct. All right, let's look at the implementation itself. Again, I'm not going to test the code. This is something that I might try to do in a different video. So here is the planner agent. So this is the prompt itself, right? It actually came up with a prompt, which is really nice. And then here is the chain. All right, it's using GPT-4. And then here are the articles. And then this is just an example of it. Okay, we can need to replace the articles with the actual content and so on. So this is the writer agent now. The writer agent has its own prompt. You can see down here, it proposed its own prompt. And then it has the writer chain, all right? And then it has the editor agent, again, its own prompt as well. It has its own task that it needs to perform. And then finally, here's the final course plan. So it says editor chain.run. And I guess all of these are gonna be chained together. And then that's gonna allow us to render the final course plan. Yeah, so this is more like an LLM chain that's being implemented here. There's no access to tools and things like that. So here it says end-to-end agent setup. It says example tools. These are the tools. This is the plan tool, write tool, edit tool, and it even has an example of that. So it says if you prefer to use a single agent that can handle these steps in sequence, you could design tools for plan course, write course, and all of these ones. Then it says you can initialize an agent that picks these tools in order. So this is how the tools are being passed to the agent. And so you can see here, this is a zero-shot React description. This might actually be working code. And then finally, here is the agent run. So it looks like valid LangChain code, which is nice. What I wanted to see is the implementation details, but it looks like it's a good starting point. Even though everything might not work out of the box, it does look like a good starting point for this implementation. And the remarkable thing about this is that the selection of the tools, right? There was no mention of tools here. Yes, I provided a hint and so on, but the explanations of the agent, right? What is the task? What is the output? All of these things are very important for how you implement and get the agent or the agentic system to actually work. And this one is a sequential agentic workflow. So it's really impressive that it implemented things for us and it kind of filled in the gaps for us, which is great. We went from a simple diagram to a full implementation here. And the only thing that was missing here is to actually test it. I'm going to end the video there. I'm very impressed by the model. Obviously, a few more things to work on, especially with those tasks that are more knowledge intensive, like the crossword puzzle. This is why I'm waiting for the web browsing capabilities. Then from the API point of view, there's going to be function calling, structure outputs, developer messages, and a lot more that's coming on the API side of things. So for all of you that are developers, you should definitely check out when it does come out, because I think this model is a lot faster and I think it's going to be more applicable to more tasks. So I guess the task coverage here is going to improve significantly, and OpenAI is just going to keep working on this and make this much faster and much more efficient. It definitely feels like they're making progress on this particular series of models. Anyways, I'm going to end the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Leave comments if you have any questions, and I'll do some follow-up videos on this because this is a model that I'm testing regularly. Do stay tuned for that. Consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you all in the next one.